Nightblade is one of the most powerful classes in the game. It is tier 3 Hawkeye class that can insta-kill enemies. Not only that, but with Ninja and Nightblade upgrades you'll be able to debuff enemies severely, which then leads to easier fights. This is especially useful against bosses, because bosses cannot be insta-killed. Getting the maximum out of Nightblade and Ninja classes is relevant to understanding status effects. I want to thank JRPG Mickey for helping me understand the difference between debuffs and status ailments, because the game doesn't really explain that very well. For example, by debuffing an enemy you won't trigger anything relevant for Nightblade class. Yes, you will debuff the enemy, but you can't insta-kill them or have any kind of benefit from special effect ability. Insta-kill and special effect ability only work with status ailments, not debuffs. So anyway, here is the build. These are my abilities. Special effect 2 is the most important one here, because it increases damage to enemies with status effect by 40%. This is why I said that the game does not explain this well, because status effect in this case means only status ailment, not debuffs. By status ailment I mean something like burning and poison. Then we have magic defense down all. Very useful ability that decreases all enemies' magic defense by 7%. Enigma is quite good on this class, because it means that enemies will leave you alone for the most part and target anyone else if they have provoke, which is what your tankiest character in group should have. Toxic is very important here, because by poisoning an enemy we get benefits from special effect and insta-kill from Nightblade class. So every time we use triangle attack or power attack, there's 30% chance that enemy will be poisoned. Next to that I have Ninja SP boost that helps in boss fights. It adds 5% of CS gauge when ninja move is successful. Very useful, because in boss fights you will mostly focus on debuff magic and to exploit enemies' weakness through magic. So these elemental ninja moves are gonna add 5% to CS gauge every time you use them, but it works quite differently, because some of these moves can hit opponents multiple times in a row, and for every hit you're gonna get 5% of CS gauge. This is great versus bosses, because we want to use as many class strikes as possible in boss fights, since most bosses are immune to burning and poison status effects, meaning we can't have benefits from special effect ability versus them. Last ability is called Weak Point, and it increases elemental weakness damage by 15%. Also very useful against bosses. Two primary stats for Nightblade build are Luck and Intelligence. Intelligence grants us Toxic, Weak Point, Special Effect 2 and Magic Defense down all, next to Intellect stat boosts. Intellect stat raises magic attack, which in turn raises damage from any ninja moves that use elemental damage. Luck raises crit chance, and it also unlocks ninja moves. Most important things that we get through luck are Enigma, Elemental Diversions, Poison Cloud, Fire Cloud, Weapon Smack and Dark Rain. As for the third stat, I would recommend putting 12 points into Spirit to get to Ninja SP boost, and then put the rest of the points into Strength to increase melee attack damage. At least up until tier 4 class has been unlocked. Alright, so how to play this build? It's actually very simple. The only thing that you need to do in combat is use Fire or Poison Cloud, depending which one fits the situation better. Some enemies are immune to fire and can absorb fire, while others are completely immune to poison, but they are never immune to both. At least I haven't encountered such enemy yet. So versus normal groups of enemies, just use either Fire Cloud or Poison Cloud. These two abilities work best with Nightblade because they hit opponents multiple times. So not only that these two abilities put burning or poison status effect on an enemy, but they also can trigger insta-kill with consecutive hits if these enemies were affected by status effect. If you want to save mana points, then simply use short combos that end with triangle attack. With the triangle attack you can poison an enemy and then trigger insta-kills and have increased damage through special effect ability. Versus bosses, you should focus on using diversion spells, especially if enemy is weak to certain spell. Almost every boss is weak to a certain element, and Ninja has 5 elements at their disposal, meaning you will have benefits almost against every enemy when it comes to exploiting elemental weakness. If you're fighting a boss whose elemental weakness you can't exploit, in that case use diversion spells to debuff and then start using weapon smack ability that does massive damage to bosses. Thanks to many uses of ninja moves, your CS gauge will constantly go up, but you also need to use normal combos in between to fill it up even quicker. So combine diversion spells, weapon smack and normal combos to maximize your effectiveness against bosses whose elemental weakness you can't exploit. Anyway, that's it for Nightblade and Ninja build for Hawkeye. Hope you enjoyed the video, thank you for watching and see you soon.